During World War II, a handful of American spies set out to make every lump of coal a potential weapon. Their invention, exploding coal, looked and felt identical to the real thing. Yet one wrong shovelful could obliterate a locomotive, a power plant, or a warship. If just a few pieces could paralyze entire supply lines, how did this secret weapon remain almost undetectable? The answer lies at the crossroads of obsession, engineering, and psychological warfare. In 1942, the United States faced a war powered by coal. Every mile of railway track, every ship at sea, every factory in full swing depended on a steady supply of black fuel. Interrupting that flow could cripple armies and halt production lines, but open attacks were costly and often failed. What the Allies needed was a weapon that could hide in plain sight, something that would slip through checkpoints and end up in the heart of enemy machines. That year, President Roosevelt appointed William Donovan, known as Wild Bill, to lead a new agency, the Office of Strategic Services. Donovan, a decorated World War I veteran, believed victory would require more than brute force. He demanded methods that would catch the enemy off guard and turn their own resources against them. In his search for unconventional solutions, Donovan turned to Stanley Lovell, an industrial chemist from Boston, known for his sharp mind and creative instincts. Donovan told Lovell he needed every subtle device and every underhanded trick he could think of. Lovell took the assignment seriously. He understood that coal was the artery of the war effort, moving trains, ships, and electricity across continents. If even a handful of coal pieces could be transformed into sabotage devices, entire supply networks could be thrown into chaos. Under Donovan's directive, the OSS established a research and development branch, tasking Lovell with building weapons that would outwit, not just outgun, the enemy. The mission was clear: create a bomb that could masquerade as the most ordinary object in the enemy's arsenal, coal. At the heart of the device sat a core of plastic explosive, shaped by hand while still pliable, then left to harden until it mimicked the density of real coal. This explosive, stable at room temperature, would not detonate from a fall or rough handling. Only the intense heat of a furnace or locomotive firebox could trigger its deadly transformation. Around this core, the team built up layers, starting with an irregular shell formed to match the jagged outlines of natural coal. The surface was coated in a mixture of real coal dust and binding agents, pressed and dusted until the texture felt gritty and authentic, right down to the smallest flake. Each piece was carefully weighed to match genuine lumps of coal, ensuring that even a practiced hand would feel no difference when tossing it onto a pile. The process did not stop at mere appearance. Lovell's group created batches tailored to the region: dark glassy anthracite for Northern Europe, softer, duller bituminous for the South. The result was a chameleon, indistinguishable from the fuel that powered trains, ships, and factories. There were no wires, no fuses, no ticking mechanisms to betray its secret. The only trigger was heat. Once the disguised bomb entered the roaring heart of a boiler, the temperature soared, and the core erupted. This concept drew inspiration from a much older weapon. In 1864, Confederate agents had crafted coal torpedoes, iron shells filled with black powder, camouflaged with tar and dust, and slipped into Union coal piles. But where those crude devices left seams and clues, the version developed by the Office of Strategic Services was nearly perfect. By the time the firebox door slammed shut, the difference was invisible and irreversible. Night after night, trains rumbled through occupied Europe, their tenders piled high with coal. In the shadows beyond the rail yards and factory walls, resistance couriers waited with small, waxed paper bundles, each holding just a handful of the new, lethal coal. The Office of Strategic Services supplied these parcels in batches small enough to fit inside a coat pocket, easy to hide from patrols or sudden inspections. There was no need for elaborate training. The instructions were simple: slip a lump into the pile, then walk away. No wires to connect, no timer to set, no need to linger and risk exposure. The device's design meant anyone could become a saboteur overnight, even those with no experience in explosives. Targets were chosen for their vulnerability and importance: coal depots near railway junctions, storage bins at river docks, and piles stacked behind factory gates. Resistance fighters moved under cover of darkness, sometimes alone, sometimes in pairs, always careful to avoid drawing attention. They worked quickly, scattering the fake coal among the real, making sure it blended with the rest. Once placed, the weapon could wait for days or even weeks, indistinguishable from the thousands of ordinary lumps surrounding it. The next link in the chain was a worker, German, conscript, or forced laborer, shoveling coal into a furnace or locomotive firebox, never suspecting what was hidden inside. The sabotage relied on routine, the simple act of feeding fuel to the machine. With each batch distributed, the path stretched from secret workshops to the heart of enemy power, all without a single shot fired. The ease and invisibility of the operation made it nearly impossible for the enemy to catch the saboteur in the act, and just as difficult to trace the source when disaster struck. Elizabeth McIntosh arrived in Kunming, China, in the final months of the war, carrying a small package wrapped in wax paper. Inside was a single lump of Black Joe, explosive coal, indistinguishable from the real thing. Her orders were simple: deliver the device to a trusted Chinese operative. No elaborate briefing needed. The weapon's simplicity spoke for itself. The handoff took place near the rail yard, just after dusk. The operative, moving quickly and with practiced ease, boarded a Japanese military train as it prepared to depart. Hidden among the legitimate fuel, the fake coal made its way into the engine's tender. The train rumbled out of Kunming, crossing a narrow bridge that spanned a steep gorge. As the firemen shoveled coal into the roaring furnace, the heat reached the device's core. The explosion tore through the boiler, sending metal and steam flying, derailing the locomotive and plunging carriages into chaos. Japanese soldiers aboard were killed in the blast. The wreckage blocked a vital supply route, stalling the Japanese advance in the region. In the days that followed, McIntosh learned of the operation's success. The news was delivered matter-of-factly, without celebration. She later wrote that she felt a surge of guilt that lingered after the initial relief. She reflected that she was just the one who handed it to the man who did the job. Her words captured the uneasy distance between intention and outcome, a reminder that even the most ingenious weapons carried a human cost. Word of unexplained boiler explosions spread quickly through German rail yards and factory floors. Workers began to eye every coal delivery with suspicion, their routines interrupted by the threat that any lump could be deadly. Inspection teams were ordered to sift through entire shipments by hand, searching for anything out of place. These checks slowed the movement of coal across the Reich, turning what had been a simple supply chain into a daily ordeal. Guards were posted at depots and along the tracks, pulling soldiers from the front lines just to watch over piles of fuel. The fear reached deep. Engineers hesitated at the furnace doors, and supervisors logged every minor mishap, unsure if it was sabotage or simple bad luck. Even when nothing happened, the anxiety alone was enough to grind operations down, as the enemy struggled to separate real threats from shadows. Roughly 3.5 tons of explosive coal were produced during the war, yet the full story remained shrouded in secrecy. Many operational records were destroyed or never created, leaving gaps that historians still struggle to fill. Physical examples survive in museum collections, their surfaces chipped and faded, but their purpose was unmistakable. The influence of these devices carried forward, shaping intelligence doctrine and inspiring later generations of disguised weapons. Yet the moral questions persist. Was it right to turn an everyday object into a hidden threat, knowing that anyone, soldier or civilian, might become its victim? The answers remain elusive, lost somewhere between the archives and the ashes. Today, everyday objects still conceal weapons, whether in cyber warfare or on the battlefield. The line between ordinary and deadly remains razor thin. Innovation in sabotage never stops. It just changes shape. The real question is, how many threats still hide in plain sight? Share your thoughts in the comments below.